In 1978, two brothers, part of the U.S. Army Special Forces Reserve, Mike and Greg Lowe of Lowe Alpine Systems, developed the Vector Systems Pack. This combined internal frame technology and other popular features of civilian and mountaineering equipment introduced into the military and tactical markets. However, in 1984, one of their most famous production pieces ever hit the market, the LCS-84 pack. This system had the military in mind, with civilian and mountaineering features strewn throughout. Without a doubt, this is one of the most interesting historical pieces to ever come across the US military's table, and one that ended in quite a tragedy. That's why today on the Gear Locker, we're going to be taking a look at the history and the future of the LCS-84 pack in the late 1980s to 1990s. You see, this pack here was really instrumental in the development of future packs from the military. Although given how few people know about this, it's very clear to understand that it never really panned out, and there's some reasons for that. As I had mentioned, the LCS-84 pack came out in 1984 and combined key features of civilian mountaineering equipment like that internal frame with militaristic styles. It was privately purchased by units like the 110th Special Forces Group and other long-range surveillance teams. In addition to that internal frame providing great comfort and stability, the pack was massive, and as you guys can tell, I have barely filled it up. It contains an internal webbing divider which can be used for radios, 4 external pockets, and a very comfortable shoulder and waist padding system. Not only is it adjustable in the way that many modern rucksacks are and more adjustable than the Alice pack of the time, but you had additional opportunity for padding here. Obviously, my example is missing that, but you can see many photos online of a black rectangle covering this portion here. Now before we get to the coolest feature of this pack, there are technically a couple versions of this. The LCS-86 is a later, more experimental version of it, one that adapted some minor things, but most importantly, from this LCS-84's torso ladder system, the LCS-86 had the torso track system, which involved 2 long plastic pieces here that allowed for adjustability of the harness setup. There were also other minor changes, but one of the coolest features that was present on both of them was this top lid portion here. This is not only a top lid for this rucksack, but it is entirely removable, albeit it takes a second, and it serves as an entirely separate assault pack here. This clips right onto the load-bearing vests of the time, and a feature that was carried on with many subsequent versions that we'll mention here and of course talk about in another video. This can most famously be seen with one of the Sea Squadron members during Operation Just Cause. However, a flaw of this design was that the pack itself now has no lid system, so if the assault pack was taken off and used, there was an open rucksack somewhere out there. Before we get on to what happened after the LCS-84 and then the LCS-86, let's quickly look at the LCS-84 rucksack in its entirety. Of course, that top flap is the coolest part, with a main front pocket and a large zippered pocket in the back. The main pack of the rucksack has 3 large scuba webbing rows, with 2 large pockets on either side. This is fitting a 1-quart canteen, and it is so big you can't even tell it's in there. The compression straps on the side do also loop through these small flap loops here, which I really like because it does secure them down. And of course, there is one on the top and the bottom, again on both sides for all 4 of the pockets. The bottom of the rucksack is a really cool style as well, because in addition to having this brown reinforcement, there is a zipper going along the entirety of the bottom, which means quicker access to the sleeve system. This is something that was seen on other packs of the time, like the larger Berghaus rucksacks, which came out in the 70s and 80s. However, again, unlike the Alice pack, the internal frame provided some fantastic stability, and of course, it was much more lightweight. The shoulder pads feature 2 quick detach buttons here. Of course, you have your sliders just like the Alice rucksack straps, but it can be quickly popped off on both sides. However, mine on this side was broken, so it was tied together with some paracord. It doesn't have that feature, but really, you only need to lose one side of it to be able to take this rucksack off quickly. The waist pad is also very comfortable. It doesn't wrap around fully, so it allows it to still be breathable, but it is very adjustable with the buckles here. As I had mentioned, the LCS-86 came out not long after the LCS-84, and it was the first that was officially introduced to the US military as an experimental prototype piece. It added a couple new features as well as some military specifications, but primarily the ability to quick detach the assault panel and other features. I would argue, given the complexity of buckles and routing webbing through this one, it is very, very nice that they upgraded that. In 1988, this was officially introduced to the US military as the IIFS piece, the field pack with a large internal frame. To soldiers, it was known as the CFP-90. This was woodland, head to toe, and still featured most of the same things that were on the LCS-84 and 86. In a future video, I will be talking about the patrol pack differences, so stay tuned for that. And while early contracts were given to Lowe Alpine, and those ones are heralded as well manufactured. Very quickly, military bureaucracy took over and ruined any chance that this pack had. You see, the thing is with military equipment, especially military grade, it's always sold to the lowest common bidder. And again, Low Alpine did produce the majority of the first run of the packs. So when production was taken over by Specialty Defense Systems and DJ Manufacturing, stitching and quality of the build failed catastrophically. Going from the metal internal frame to the plastic meant in colder weather, it was very brittle and snapped often, rendering the entire pack practically useless. And blown out pockets and suspension pieces meant that for the soldier wearing it, there was no more comfort. In addition to this, with that development, going over the LBV and other web gear meant that there was severe stacking on the shoulders, leading to pressure point pinches and general discomfort of wearing so much overloaded and stacked equipment. And then with the patrol pack being removed as the lid and instead added on top of it, well, a feature that was nice, of course, it led to very front-heavy packs, and oftentimes it was ditched or thrown aside, which is why you can find so many of those lid pieces separately. Ultimately, around the 2000s, the CFP-90 pack was discontinued entirely. And the design of the LCS-84 to the 86 to the CFP-90 was pretty neat, but it stood no chance compared to the other rucksacks coming up in the future. It's a tragic end to an otherwise very cool historical piece. The LCS-84 is a very rare item to pick up, and if you have the opportunity, I highly recommend it because it's a very well-built pack in its own right. Outdated and heavy, sure, but something with historical significance that I would still take on a trip any day. That's what we're here for. This is the Gear.Locker. If you guys have any more information about this pack or things you want to share, let me know in the comments below. We'll see you guys in the next one.